A room full of silver-haired women dressed in black and festooned with silver satin ribbons stood up in unison on August 28 at the Pasadena City Council to call attention to climate and its dangers to public health. More than 60 Pasadena area residents, including some men, packed the city council chambers. A total of 12 senior women addressed the council during the public comment period. They spoke of the dangers from excessive heat caused by climate change on the elderly and, in particular, on senior women. Recent studies show that in 2022, more than 60,000 Europeans died from excessive heat caused by climate change, with the largest number of those deaths among senior women.
Tonight I ask that the Council take urgent action to protect older Pasadena residents like me from heat-related climate change. A recent study published in Nature Medicine showed that 61,000 people died in Europe in 2022 from climate change-related heat, and older women died in disproportionate numbers. We're fortunate to have our own public utility company, and we have our own public health department. We need a full discussion of the topic of the public health risks to our residents of excessive heat and fires caused by climate change. And we need PWP and our public health department to work together to help the city achieve its climate change-related goals. Please agendize the following topics on an urgent basis. 1, the expected temperature projections for Pasadena through 2045, including a report from our public health department. And 2, how Pasadena can make a specific plan for achieving its goal of 100% carbon-free electric power by the end of 2030. We're in a climate emergency. We need a specific plan now with a timeline and milestones to meet the City Council's goal of 100% carbon-free electric power by 2030. And we need transparency in the process. Thank you.
I'm a 30-year resident of Council District 2. From comments to the Municipal Services Committee last Tuesday, I learned that PWP's ill-chosen consultants recently told STAG members that the IRP will not be a plan to achieve 100% carbon-free electric power, just a compliance document. We have already seen the impacts of climate change. PWP must recommend a plan to the City Council that will meet the city's adopted policy goal of carbon-free sourcing by 2030. Council must demand a concrete plan to achieve its goal of carbon-free energy by 2030, including a preferred portfolio of power providers.
Good afternoon. I'm a longtime resident of Pasadena, and I'm in the 5th District. I made my little sign that only seniors can read because it's in cursive. I'm also not going to take very much time, but I will be saying what's in my heart, which is I'm a member of Pasadena 100. I'm also a member of Transition Pasadena and have been coming to this body for a long time, sending letters to all of you. And I've been aware that climate is something to pay attention to since I was a teen and couldn't see the mountains because of the smog. There was a fuel shortage way back then. I'm 71. Water pollution was something we knew we had to address way back then. Now we need to stand up. We need to do it as quickly as possible, and we have to pay the price for not having done it that long ago.
Good afternoon. I am a long-term resident here in Pasadena District 2, and I am standing before you because I'm also a Canadian citizen, and as you saw in the news, Northwest Territories are all going up in smoke. There's not just one fire. Canadians were evacuated because all the major settlements were threatened with separate wildfires, all of them. As an example of how there's just so much going on everywhere all at once. Every extreme heat catastrophe has human fingerprints all over it. And we are no exception in this city. It drives home the point that climate catastrophes are real, they're accelerating, and we're culpable. So we're all here tonight in our black and armbands in solidarity together because we are here to demand that our citizen-owned utility work with STAG and adopt a proposed mitigation plan stat. That's medical. That means now, not tomorrow, not the end of November, but now. And as moving as if our lives depended on it, because guess what? They do. They do. We're feeling the effects, and it depends on PWP's immediate action. Climate activism can no longer be viewed as altruistic. It's an act of survival, pure necessity. So we're here to demand that we stop the delays, the excuses, the $700,000 consultant fees to 3 different companies to put into policy a working plan that's transparent.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council. I am Therese Brummel, registered nurse, 44-year resident of District 2, 71 years old. I am here to stand with the Swiss elder women who have sued their government for not doing everything in their means to protect them from the effects of climate change. Women of my age are disproportionately at risk for adverse health impact from extreme heat. The clock is ticking. You have unanimously signed an initiative to be carbon-free by 2030, but the IRP plans do not entirely reflect that. I ask you now to press PWP to comply with your stated goal of carbon-free energy by 2030, which is attainable. And truth be known, I am not so much here tonight to beg for my own protection as I am here to speak on behalf of my 2 young granddaughters, also Pasadena residents. I hope and pray we will leave them a livable world. You have children and grandchildren and family who deserve the same. Now that Hurricane Hillary has passed through Pasadena, we might ask, will Pasadena be the next Lahaina? Thank you for doing all in your power to beat the clock.
Council members, I am Nancy Busaka, age 74, a 54-year resident of Pasadena and District 1, a 30-year AIDS survivor, alive despite an AIDS-related cancer in which the life-saving chemo damaged my lungs, and since then a woman with COPD. I'm also a lifelong environmentalist. I stand with the Swiss senior women suing the EU to end the use of CO2 producing coal and gas. As the amount of CO2 in the air increases, the amount of oxygen decreases, which makes it even harder for me to breathe. In 2008, as an early adopter of solar, I bought a SunPower system which used a positive ground. I have since learned that this prevents me from adding battery backup for the oxygen concentrator that is in my future. As a young woman concerned about the Earth's future, I made the choice not to have children in an effort to help slow population growth. Little did I realize that today my choice likely means that I will die alone. At the beginning of the station fire in 2009, winds were blowing from the north at 70 miles an hour. It eventually burned 250 square miles of the Angeles National Forest. Had those winds not died down, Pasadena could easily have looked like Lahaina. That was 14 years ago with 14 years less CO2. What we need now is the city manager to publicly declare a climate emergency and to direct staff to produce an IRP that will make Pasadena's utility carbon-free by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Dr. Jamie Scott, and I am a retired physician scientist. I was born here in Pasadena and grew up here, and then went off to Canada, and returned as a retired person and live now in District 6. I came here before you today to emphasize, as others women have here too, the risk of health of climate change, especially to older women like me, And as you know of what's happened in Europe, that where 56%, there's 56% more heat-related deaths among women 60 years old and older than compared even to men of that age group. So we are extremely vulnerable, but so are others at risk in Pasadena, including those with pre-existing conditions, the economically disadvantaged, and the unhoused. So I would like to just urge you to please follow through with your commitment for PWP to generate its energy from 100% carbon-free sources by 2030, when I'll be 77 and hopefully alive. And in keeping with that commitment, though, I think that it's really important that you demand that the IRP, which is going to be the path forward, be something that you have time to actually review before it goes out to the state. Thank you very much.
Hello, Council and Vice Mayor. A letter from Dr. Elizabeth Stern of Senior Women for Climate Protection in Switzerland. Dear courageous women in Pasadena, we are very happy to hear about you and the politically inspired climate work you are doing in Pasadena. For the city, whose job it is to protect its citizens, getting out of coal and gas is paramount for lowering greenhouse gas emissions, or at least not contributing further. We, Senior Women of Climate Protection, hope that your city council hears you and stops using coal and gas to make your electricity. Our climate complaint is now being discussed at the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, France. We had our public hearing at the end of March and are waiting for the verdict. This will be the first time that the European Court for Human Rights has to decide whether indeed climate protection is a human right. Newspaper articles about our case have appeared around the world. At all of this commotion about a group of tough older women, average age 73, who had the nerve to take their government to court for violating the human right to life and health by failing to take concrete and fast measures against the climate crisis. In your country, the far-reaching verdict has been spoken in Montana. In Pasadena, you women and your like-minded men are on an important journey with your intervention at the City Council. Hopefully, the Council will listen to you and do everything they can to stop oil and gas as a source of energy for the citizens of Pasadena. We wish you well. Thank you.
Good evening. I come to you because I'm reading a book now called The Bonobo Sisterhood by Diane Rosenfeld, who outlines the altruistic motivations of the bonobo, which is a smaller version of chimpanzee. I won't go into the science of it. However, they look out for each other. And I just want to point out how many of the Bonobo Sisterhood is here tonight to encourage you to get serious and urgent about the climate crisis. We've got students in Montana standing up for each other in a very bonobo kind of action, and it didn't matter what their gender was. They're standing up and saying, you know what, this is not okay, and you got to get a fire under your butts. And the Swiss women, and now all of us are here to say, you know what, be bonobos, don't be jerks. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a resident of Pasadena. I've been here for 2 years, and before that, I've lived in the San Gabriel Valley for 25 years. And I remember when I first came here, I couldn't see the mountains. So I'm glad to see the mountains now. But I have been an environmental activist since the mid-'80s, and it just frustrates me to no end that we're at this point now. Because I thought back in those days that I had a chance, that we had a chance to fix things and make everything better, but it didn't happen that way. It got worse. So I am here to implore you to do something now because we don't have time at all. And being in my mid-60s, I'm also a fitness professional, and I work with a lot of women in my age, and I feel like they're all suffering as I am. I can't go running now during these hot months. There's all kinds of issues that I see come up with women of our age. So I'm here in solidarity with all of them and hoping that this will make a difference. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council members. I'm a voting resident of District 7 and a member of Pasadena 100. I am here with my sisters, and I ask them to rise now in solidarity. And I'd especially like us to recognize Professor Frances Arnold in the corner, Nobel Prize winner. We are honored by her presence today. We stand firm and we will not be ignored. Governments protect their people's right to safety and security. As elected officials, you recognized in January that the safety and security of Pasadenans were imperiled by using fossil fuels to generate electricity. You enacted a resolution that declared a climate emergency and directed PWP to use the IRP process to plan the transition to carbon-free electricity by 2030. PWP has to deliver. It must produce a plan with a timeline and milestones that show the public how carbon-free electricity will be achieved by 2030. It cannot dismiss the IRP as simply a compliance document. We stand here as a most vulnerable group, yet with the strength that comes from recognizing that climate change unites all of us. You, the Council, have an historic opportunity. By holding fast to your resolution, you can inspire other municipalities to take impactful action against what is the greatest existential threat facing our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayors and members of the Pasadena City Council. I am a stakeholder in Pasadena. I live, however, in Los Angeles, California. I come representing the African Methodist Episcopal Church as director of the Social Action Commission, and we stand with First AME Pasadena, who is a part of the sisterhood represented here today. You can't see how I'm attired, I believe, but I'm in black too with my silver armband. It is not just symbolic. It is very important that we thank you for your stewardship. Thank you for your commitment to make a difference by 2030, but urge you to go the extra mile because your legacy is so important, as you've already shown. Maya Angelou says our legacy is every life we touch. And so for every life you touch, it is very important that there be carbon-free emission, and you have the ability to control your own utility company, which most jurisdictions do not have. We are proud to work in partnership with you and to continue as a part of Equal America, a national movement, and Blessed Tomorrow, a faith-based movement. Please look to us to help you achieve your goal. Thank you for your continued stewardship, and thank you for protecting the legacy for all of us.
So that completes public comment, and
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I just had a quick question for the city manager in Sydney. What is the timeline for the IRP to return to the city council? And then will the IRP include a path towards 100% carbon-free by 2030?
Your question directly. The IRP will provide pathways for the carbon-free for 2030. That will be explicitly stated in the IRP, including what resources will be needed, including a delineation of resources internal to the city, including the differentiation of resources such as demand response, the differentiation of rooftop solar, a differentiation of all kinds of resources. So specifically, the IRP will come back with pathways to satisfy the 2030 carbon-free public policy goal initiated by this body. In terms of timing, we are looking at a fall, October-ish, a November timeframe to come back to the council, and backing up in the months prior would be the EAC and also the MSC.
We do have an IRP meeting for those of you who are interested in the IRP that is virtual. Please attend that meeting, and if you want to leave your name, we can send you an information on how to sign up for that meeting, because we'd love to hear your feedback there as well.
Thank you. And then as to it relates to all of the individuals that came out about climate change, does the city have a heat map? And if we don't, maybe that needs to be an item that comes to MSC to look at a heat map of the city and where the hot spots are, and then overlap that where we're planting trees. Because we've brought that up in MSC before, and we haven't received that heat map yet. But it would be great to know where the hot locations are, especially in some of the older districts in our city. And then also, I would say we have the home improvements program. I think we need another update on the home improvements program. And the home improvements program is the program that will someone from City of Water and Power Department will go out to your home and make sure that you're running efficiently. But if we could update that program to add more incentives for seniors, there may be an opportunity to look at that as well, the home improvements program at MSC.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to echo Mr. Jones and Mr. Hampton. And, you know, I talk a lot about how if we can't solve these problems here in Pasadena, nobody can, right? And I think we had an embodiment of that in this chamber today in the person of Dr. Francis Arnold from Caltech. And there was an introduction, but time didn't permit a full introduction. This is a Nobel Prize winning scientist who is currently the co-chair of President Biden's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So she's, what, a mile from this council chamber over at Caltech, and I will expect when we come back with the IRP that we will have reached out to authorities like that. I mean, look at the crosswalking that's possible in terms of knowledge, in terms of best practices, creativity, and even, dare I say, you know, an opportunity for partnering with the federal government, with resources. So there's no excuse for this. We have to do it. You know, hurricanes in California, Lahaina burned like that. I mean, we really need to, you know, what was the song in Hamilton? History has its eyes on you. History has its eyes on us right now, and we have a big opportunity. So I'm excited and confident that we're going to meet the challenge. Thank you.